Hey, welcome back to Yehusha's Glory. We're in chapter 78, page 446 in Jasher and the Sefer. Chapter 78. At that time died Baal Canaan, son of Akbor, king of Edom, and was buried in his house in the land of Edom. And after his death, the children of Esau sent to the land of Edom and took from there a man who was in Edom, whose name was Hadad. And they made him king over them in the place of Baal Canaan, their king. And Hadad reigned over the children of Edom 48 years. And when he reigned, he resolved to fight against the children of Moab, to bring them under the power of the children of Esau as they were before. But he was not able, because the children of Moab heard this thing, and they rose up and hastened to elect a king over them from amongst their brethren. And they afterward gathered together a great people, and sent to the children of Ammon, their brethren, for help to fight against Hadad, king of Edom. And Hadad heard the thing which the children of Moab had done, and was greatly afraid of them, and refrained from fighting against them. In those days, Moshe, the son of Amram in Midian, took Sipporah, the daughter of Ruel, and the Midiani, for a woman. The daughter of Ruel, the Midiani, for a woman, And Sipporah walked in the ways of the daughters of Jacob. She was nothing short of the righteousness of Sarah, Rivkah, Rachel, and Leah. And Sipporah conceived and bore a son, and called his name Gershom, for she said, I was a stranger in a foreign land, but he circumcised not his foreskin, at the command of Ruel, his father-in-law. And she conceived again and bore a son, but circumcised his foreskin, and called his name Eliezer. For Moshe said, because the Elohim of my fathers was my help, and delivered me from the sword of Pharaoh. And Pharaoh, king of Mitzrayim, greatly increased the labor of the children of Israel in those days, and continued to make his yoke heavier upon the children of Israel. And he ordered a proclamation to be made in Mitzrayim, saying, give no more straw to the people to make bricks with. Let them go and gather themselves straw as they can find it. Also tale of bricks which they shall make. Let them give each day, and diminish nothing from them. For they are idle in their work. And the children of Israel heard this, and they mourned and sighed, and they cried unto Yahuwah on account of the bitterness of their souls. And Yahuwah heard the cries of the children of Israel, and saw the oppression with which the Mitzrayim oppressed them. And Yahuwah was jealous of his people and his inheritance, and heard their voice, and he resolved to take them out of the affliction of Mitzrayim, to give them the land of Canaan for a possession. Now, chapter 79. And in those days Moshe was feeding the flock of Reuel, the Midiani, his father-in-law, beyond the wilderness of Syene. And the stick which he took from his father-in-law was in his hand. And it came to pass one day that a kid of goats strayed from the flock, and Moshe pursued it, and it came to the mountain of Elohim in Korev. And when he had come to Korev, Yahuwah appeared there unto him in the bush. And he found the bush burning with fire, but the fire had no power over the bush to consume it. And Moshe was greatly astonished at this sight, wherefore the bush was not consumed. And he approached to see this mighty thing. And Yahuwah called unto Moshe out of the fire, and commanded him to go down to Mitzrayim, to Pharaoh, king of Mitzrayim, to send the children of Israel from his service. And Yahuwah said unto Moshe, go, return to Mitzrayim, for all those men who sought your life are dead, and you shall speak unto Pharaoh to send forth the children of Israel from his land. And Yahuwah showed him to do signs and wonders in Mitzrayim before the eyes of Pharaoh and the eyes of his subjects, in order that they might believe that Yahuwah had sent him. And Moshe hearkened to all that Yahuwah had commanded him, and he returned to his father-in-law and told him the thing. And Reuel said to him, go in peace. And Moshe rose up to go to Mitzrayim, and he took his woman and sons with him. And he was at an inn in the road, and an angel of Elohim came down and sought an occasion with him. Sought an occasion against him. And he wished to kill him on account of his firstborn son, because he had not circumcised him, and had transgressed the covenant which Yahuwah had made with Abraham. For Moshe had hearkened to the words of his father-in-law, which he had spoken to him, not to circumcise his firstborn son. Therefore he circumcised him not. And Sipporah saw the angel of Yahuwah seeking an occasion against Moshe, and she knew that this thing was owing to his not having circumcised her son Gershom. And Sipporah hastened and took of the sharp rock stones that were there, and she circumcised her son, and delivered her man and her son from the hand of the angel of Yahuwah. And Aaron, the son of Amram, the brother of Moshe, was in Mitzrayim, walking at the riverside on that day. And Yahuwah appeared to him in that place, and he said to him, Go now toward Moshe in the wilderness. And he went and met him in the mountain of Elohim, and he kissed him. And Aaron lifted up his eyes and saw Sipporah, the woman of Moshe, and her children. And he said unto Moshe, Who are these unto you? And Moshe said unto him, These are my woman and sons, which Elohim gave to me in Midian. And the thing grieved Aaron on account of the woman and her children. And Aaron said to Moshe, Send away the woman and her children, that they may go to her father's house. And Moshe hearkened to the words of Aaron, and did so. And Sipporah returned with her children, and they went to the house of Reuel, and remained there until the time arrived when Yahuwah had visited his people, and brought them forth from Mitzrayim from the hand of Pharaoh. And Moshe and Aaron came to Mitzrayim to the community of the children of Israel, and they spoke to them all the words of Yahuwah, and the people rejoiced, an exceeding great rejoicing. And Moshe and Aaron rose up early on the next day, and they went to the house of Pharaoh, and they took in their hands the stick of Elohim. And when they came to the king's gate, 2 young lions were confined there with iron instruments, and no person went out or came in from before them, unless those whom the king ordered to come, when the conjurers came and withdrew the lions by their incantations, and thus brought them to the king. And Moshe hastened and lifted up the stick upon the lions, and he loosed them. And Moshe and Aaron came into the king's house. The lions also came with them in joy, and they followed them and rejoiced as a dog rejoices over his master when he comes from the field. And when Pharaoh saw this thing, he was astonished at it, and he was greatly terrified at the report, for their appearance was like the appearance of the children of Elohim. And Pharaoh said to Moshe, What do you require? And they answered him, saying, Yahuwah Elohim of the Rephaim have sent us to you to say, Send forth my people, that they may serve me. And when Pharaoh heard their words, he was greatly terrified before them, and he said to them, Go today, and come back to me tomorrow. And they did according to the word of the king. And when they had gone, Pharaoh sent for Balaam the magician, and to Jannes and Jambres his sons, and to all the magicians and conjurers and counselors which belonged to the king, and they all came and sat before the king. And the king told them all the words which Moshe and his brother Aaron had spoken to him. And the magicians said to the king, But how came the men to you on account of the lions which were confined at the gate? And the king said, Because they lifted up their rod against the lions, and loosed them, and came to me, and the lions also rejoiced at them, as a dog rejoices to meet his master. And Balaam, the son of Beor the magician, answered the king, saying, These are none else than magicians like ourselves. Now therefore send for them, and let them come, and we will try them. And the king did so. And in the morning Pharaoh sent for Moshe and Aaron to come before the king. And they took the rod of Elohim, and came to the king, and spoke to him, saying, Thus says Yahuwah Elohim of the Rephaim, Send my people, that they may serve me. And the king said to them, But who will believe you that you are the messengers of Elohim, and that you come to me by his order? Now therefore give a wonder or sign in this matter, and then the words which you speak will be believed. And Aaron hastened and threw the rod out of his hand before Pharaoh and before his servants, and the rod turned into a serpent. And the sorcerers saw this, and They cast each man his rod upon the ground, and they became serpents. And the serpent of Aaron's rod lifted up his head, and opened its mouth to swallow the rods of the magicians. And Balaam the magician answered and said, This thing has been from the days of old, that a serpent should swallow its fellow, and that living things devour each other. Now, therefore, restore it to a rod as it was at first, and we will also restore our rods as they were at first. And if your rod shall swallow our rods, then shall we know that the Ruach Elohim is in you, and if not, you are only an artificer like unto ourselves. And Aaron hastened and stretched forth his hand and caught hold of the serpent's tail, and it became a rod in his hand. And the sorcerers did the like with their rods, and they got hold, each man, of the tail of his serpent, and they became rods as at first. And when they were restored to rods, the rod of Aaron swallowed up their rods. And when the king saw this, he ordered the Sefer of Records that related to the kings of Mitzrayim to be brought. And they brought the Sefer of Records, the chronicles of the kings of Mitzrayim, in which all the idols of Mitzrayim were inscribed, for they thought of finding therein the name of Yahuwah, but they found it not. And Pharaoh said to Moshe and Aaron, Behold, I have not found the name of your Elohim written in this Sefer, and his name I know not. And the counselors and wise men answered the king, We have heard that the Elohim of the Ivreim is a son of the wise, the son of ancient kings. And Pharaoh turned to Moshe and Aaron and said to them, I know not Yahuwah, whom you have declared, neither will I send his people. And they answered and said to the king, Yahuwah Elohim of Elohim is his name, and he proclaimed his name over us from the days of our ancestors, and sent us, saying, Go to Pharaoh and say unto him, Send my people, that they may serve me. Now therefore send us, that we may take a journey for 3 days in the wilderness, and there may sacrifice to him. For from the days of our going down to Mitzrayim, he has not taken from our hands either burnt offering, oblation, or sacrifice. And if you will not send us, his anger will be kindled against you, and he will smite Mitzrayim either with the plague or with the sword. And Pharaoh said to them, Tell me now his power and his might. And they said to him, He created the heavens and the earth, the seas and all their fishes. He formed the light, created the darkness, caused rain upon the earth, and watered it, and made the herbage and grass to sprout. He created man and beast, and the animals of the forest, the birds of the air, and the fish of the sea, and by his mouth they live and die. Surely he created you in your mother's womb, and put into you the breath of life, and reared you, and placed you upon the royal throne of Mitzrayim. And he will take your breath and soul from you, and return you to the ground whence you were taken. And the anger of the king was kindled at their words, and he said to them, But who amongst all the Elohim of nations can do this? My river is my own. I have made it for myself. And he drove them from him, and he ordered the labor upon Israel to be more severe than it was yesterday and before. And Moshe and Aaron went out from the king's presence, and they saw the children of Israel in an evil condition, for the taskmasters had made their labor exceedingly heavy. And Moshe returned to Yahuwah and said, Why have you ill-treated your people? For since I came to speak to Pharaoh, what you did send me for, he has exceedingly ill-used the children of Israel. And Yahuwah said to Moshe, Behold, you will see that with an outstretched hand and heavy plagues, Pharaoh will send the children of Israel from his land. And Moshe and Aaron dwelt amongst their brethren, the children of Israel, in Mitzrayim. And as for the children of Israel, the Mitzrayim embittered their lives with the heavy work which they imposed upon them. Chapter 80, page 449. And at the end of 2 years, Yahuwah again sent Moshe to Pharaoh to bring forth the children of Israel, and to send them out of the land of Mitzrayim. And Moshe went and came to the house of Pharaoh, and he spoke to him the words of Yahuwah who had sent him. But Pharaoh would not hearken to the voice of Yahuwah. And Elohim roused his might in Mitzrayim upon Pharaoh and his subjects, and Elohim smote Pharaoh, and his people were very great, and he smote Pharaoh and his people with very great and sore plagues, with all their streams and rivers. And when a Mitzri came to drink and draw water, he took into his pitcher, and behold, all the water was turned into blood. And when he came to drink from his cup, the water in the cup became blood. And when a woman kneaded her dough and cooked her victuals, their appearance was turned to that of blood. And Yahuwah sent again and caused all their waters to bring forth frogs, and all the frogs came into the houses of the Mitzrayim. And when the Mitzrayim drank, their bellies were filled with frogs, and they danced in their bellies as they dance when in the river. And all their drinking water and cooking water turned to frogs. Also when they lay in their beds, their perspiration bred frogs. Notwithstanding all this, the anger of Yahuwah did not turn from them, and his hand was stretched out against all the Mitzrayim to smite them with every heavy plague. And he sent and smote their dust to lice, and the lice became in Mitzrayim to the height of 2 cubits upon the earth. The lice were also very numerous in the flesh of man and beast, and all the inhabitants of Mitzrayim, also upon the king and queen, Yahuwah sent the lice, and it grieved Mitzrayim exceedingly on account of the lice. Notwithstanding this, the anger of Yahuwah did not turn away, and his hand was still stretched out over Mitzrayim. And Yahuwah sent all kinds of beasts of the field into Mitzrayim, and they came and destroyed all Mitzrayim, man and beast and trees and all things that were in Mitzrayim. And Yahuwah sent fiery serpents, scorpions, mice, weasels, toads, together with others creeping in dust, flies, hornets, fleas, bugs, and gnats, each swarm according to its kind, and all reptiles and winged animals according to their kind came to Mitzrayim and grieved the Mitzrayim exceedingly. And the fleas and flies came into the eyes and ears of the Mitzrayim, and the hornet came upon them and drove them away, and they removed from it into their inner rooms, and it pursued them. And when the Mitzrayim hid themselves on account of the swarm of animals, they locked their doors after them, and Elohim ordered the Sulanuth, which was in the sea, to come up and go into Mitzrayim, and she had long arms, 10 cubits in length, of the cubit of a man. And she went upon the roofs and uncovered the raftering and flooring and cut them, and stretched forth her arm into the house, and removed the lock and the bolt, and opened the houses of Mitzrayim. Afterward came the swarm of animals into the houses of Mitzrayim, and the swarm of animals destroyed the Mitzrayim, and it grieved them exceedingly. Notwithstanding this, the anger of Yahuwah did not turn away from the Mitzrayim, and his hand was yet stretched forth against them. And Elohim sent the pestilence, and the pestilence pervaded Mitzrayim, in the horses and asses, and in the camels, in herds of oxen and sheep, and in man. And when the Mitzrayim rose up early in the morning to take their cattle to pasture, they found all their cattle dead. And there remained of the cattle of the Mitzrayim only 1 in 10. And of the cattle belonging to Israel and Goshen, not one died. And Elohim sent a burning inflammation in the flesh of the Mitzrayim, which burst their skins. And it became a severe itch in all the Mitzrayim, from the soles of their feet to the crowns of their heads. And many boils were in their flesh, that their flesh wasted away until they became rotten and putrid. Notwithstanding this, the anger of Yahuwah did not turn away, and his hand was still stretched out over all Mitzrayim. And Yahuwah sent a very heavy hail, which smote their vines and broke their fruit trees, and dried them up, that they fell upon them. Also every green herb became dry and perished, for a mingling fire descended amidst the hail. Therefore the hail and the fire consumed all things. Also men and beasts that were found abroad perished of the flames of fire and of the hail, and all the young lions were exhausted. And Yehusha sent and brought numerous locusts into Mitzrayim, the Chasel, Shalom, Chargol, and Shagol locusts, each of its kind, which devoured all that the hail had left remaining. Then the Mitzrayim rejoiced at the locusts, although they consumed the product of the field, and they caught them in abundance and salted them for food. And Yehusha turned a mighty wind of the sea, which took away all the locusts, even those that were salted, and thrust them into the Red Sea. Not one locust remained within the boundaries of Mitzrayim. And Elohim sent darkness upon Mitzrayim, that the whole land of Mitzrayim and Pathrak became dark for 3 days, so that a man could not see his hand when he lifted it to his mouth. And at that time died many of the people of Israel who had rebelled against Yehusha, and who would not hearken to Moshe and Aaron, and believed not in them that Elohim had sent them. And who had said, We will not go forth from Mitzrayim, lest we perish with hunger in a desolate wilderness. And who would not hearken to the voice of Moshe? And Yehusha plagued them in the 3 days of darkness, and yet Israel buried them in those days without the Mitzrayim knowing of them, or rejoicing over them. And the darkness was very great in Mitzrayim for 3 days, and any person who was standing when the darkness came remained standing in his place, and he that was sitting remained sitting, and he that was lying continued lying in the same state, and he that was walking remained sitting upon the ground in the same spot. And this thing happened to all the Mitzrayim until the darkness had passed away. And the days of darkness passed away, and Yehusha sent Moshe and Aaron to the children of Israel, saying, Celebrate your feast, and make your pekach. For, behold, I come in the midst of the night amongst all the Mitzrayim, and I will smite all their firstborn, from the firstborn of a man to the firstborn of a beast. And when I see your pekach, I will pass over you. And the children of Israel did according to all that Yehusha had commanded Moshe and Aaron. That did they in that night. And it came to pass in the middle of the night that Yehusha went forth in the midst of Mitzrayim, and smote all the firstborn of the Mitzrayim, from the firstborn of man to the firstborn of beast. And Pharaoh rose up in the night, he and all his servants, and all the Mitzrayim. And there was a great cry throughout Mitzrayim in that night, for there was not a house in which there was not a corpse. Also the likenesses of the firstborn of Mitzrayim, which were carved in the walls of their houses, were destroyed and fell to the ground. Even the bones of their firstborn who had died before this, and whom they had buried in their houses, were raked up by the dogs of Mitzrayim on that night, and dragged before the Mitzrayim, and cast before them. And all the Mitzrayim saw this evil which had suddenly come upon them, and all the Mitzrayim cried out with a loud voice, and all the families of Mitzrayim wept upon that night, each man for his son, and each man for his daughter, being the firstborn. And the tumult of Mitzrayim was heard at a distance on that night. And Bathia, the daughter of Pharaoh, went forth with the king on that night to seek Moshe and Aaron in their houses. And they found them in their houses, eating and drinking and rejoicing with all Israel. And Bathia said to Moshe, Is this the reward for the good which I have done to you, who have reared you and stretched you out? And you have brought this evil upon me and my father's house? And Moshe said to her, Surely 10 plagues did Yehusha bring upon Mitzrayim. Did any evil accrue to you from any of them? Did one of them affect you? And she said, No. And Moshe said to her, Although you are the firstborn to your mother, you shall not die. and no evil shall reach you in the midst of Mitzrayim. And she said, what advantage is it to me when I see the king, my brother, and all his household and subjects in this evil, whose firstborn perish, with all the firstborn of Mitzrayim? And Moshe said to her, surely your brother and his household and subjects, the families of Mitzrayim, would not hearken to the words of Yahuwah. Therefore did this evil come upon them. And Pharaoh, king of Mitzrayim, approached Moshe and Aaron, some of the children of Israel who were with them in that place, and he prayed to them, saying, rise up and take your brethren, all the children of Israel who are in the land, with their sheep and oxen, and all belonging to them. They shall leave nothing remaining, only pray for me to Yahuwah Elohim. And Moshe said to Pharaoh, behold, though you are your mother's firstborn, yet fear not, for you will not die, for Yahuwah has commanded that you shall live, in order to show you his great might and strong stretched out arm. And Pharaoh ordered the children of Israel to be sent away, and all the Mitzrayim strengthened themselves to send them, for they said, we are all perishing. And all the Mitzrayim sent Israel forth with great riches, sheep and oxen and precious things, according to the oath of Yahuwah between him and our father Abraham. And the children of Israel delayed going forth at night. And when the Mitzrayim came to them to bring them out, they said to them, are we thieves that we should go forth at night? And the children of Israel asked of the Mitzrayim vessels of silver and vessels of gold and garments. And the children of Israel stripped the Mitzrayim. And Moshe hastened and rose up and went to the river of Mitzrayim, and brought up from thence the coffin of Joseph, and took it with him. The children of Israel also brought up each man his father's coffin with him, and each man the coffins of his tribe. Okay, that's about it for today. I want to thank you very much for being here. Father, bless every one of you. Father, take care of us. Watch over us. Guide us. Give us the truth. Smite our enemies. Heal their hearts so they don't hate us. And please keep us healthy. Heal us from our pains and sicknesses. We love you very much, Father. We pray to you in Yehusha's name. Amen. This is Yehusha's glory.